Hello everyone, my dear viewers. Today we have stories about what happens when confidence meets a system that doesn't respond to it. No anger, no conflict, something much quieter and far more unsettling.
I can just explain it, he said, stepping forward with that calm American certainty. The officer didn't interrupt. Didn't react. Just listened. When he finished, there was a pause, long enough to feel like something might change. Then the pen moved again. It doesn't matter why, the officer said quietly. Only what happened. That's when I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a completely different system. In Amsterdam, I watched an American try to improve a self-checkout system. The machine froze mid-scan. He tapped the screen like it owed him cooperation. It's not responding, he told the employee. She nodded, pressed one button, and waited. He leaned in. You should make these faster. She didn't respond. Just stared at the screen until it reset itself. Silence as a service model. He kept talking, explaining optimization, efficiency, how systems back home adapt quicker. The employee nodded again, same neutral face, same rhythm. When the machine came back, she stepped aside. You can continue. That was it. No engagement, no improvement, no collaboration. He scanned slower this time, quieter. Because suddenly, he wasn't fixing the system anymore. He was inside it, and it didn't need him. In Vienna, I saw an American try to skip a queue by asking politely. Excuse me, I just need one quick thing. He smiled, confident, respectful. The woman at the front looked at him, then at the line behind. So do we, she said calmly. No anger. No rejection tone. Just a flat statement of equality. The kind that leaves no space for negotiation or personality. He tried again, softer this time. I'm in a bit of a rush. The answer came instantly. We all are. No escalation. No irritation. Just repetition of the same truth. He stepped back into line, visibly recalculating. Because politeness didn't unlock privilege here. It just made the refusal sound nicer. And for the first time, his tone didn't change the outcome at all. This is where the shift begins. Americans are trained to solve friction socially, tone, charm, persuasion. But these systems remove social variables entirely. You don't win by being likable. You don't lose by being rude. You just get processed. Equality here isn't emotional, it's structural. And when everyone gets the same outcome, confidence stops being an advantage. It becomes just another voice in line. In Copenhagen, I watched an American stand directly in a bike lane, checking his phone like the pavement had invited him. The first cyclist rang a bell. The second didn't slow down. Hey, he snapped, stepping back. A woman stopped nearby. That's a bike lane, she said. He frowned. I didn't see a sign. She pointed down. Painted arrows. Obvious. Permanent. Ignored until impact. He laughed it off at first. Well, they should make it clearer. The woman didn't argue. They did. That sentence landed harder than expected. Because it wasn't defensive. It was final. The system had already communicated. His failure wasn't misunderstanding, it was assumption. He stepped off the lane, quieter now. Watching bikes pass like traffic he had briefly believed would negotiate with him. In Barcelona, I saw an American try to return a ticket after using it. I didn't enjoy it, he explained at the counter. The clerk paused. You entered. He nodded. Yes, but it wasn't worth it. The clerk typed something, then stopped. That's not a reason. The American leaned forward. In the US, the clerk raised a hand slightly. This is not the US. That was the entire conversation. No escalation. No apology. Just a boundary placed exactly where the system needed it. He stood there, holding logic that had worked his entire life, and suddenly didn't. Not because it was wrong. Because it wasn't relevant. The clerk waited. Not impatiently. Just waiting. Until he understood that the outcome wasn't moving, no matter how well he explained it. The pattern repeats until it becomes unavoidable. Systems here don't reject you emotionally, they outlast you structurally. You can argue, explain, escalate, but the result doesn't change. That's the lesson. Not harshness. Not rudeness. Just consistency applied without exception. And that's when people shift. Not because they agree, but because resistance stops producing results.
Hey, at this point I think nothing could surprise me anymore. I was wrong.
In Stockholm, I watched an American take a phone call inside a quiet train carriage. Not loud, just present. Within seconds, eyes lifted, then dropped again. No one said anything at first. Then the conductor appeared. "This is a silent carriage," he said softly. The American nodded mid-sentence. "Yeah, I'll be quick." The conductor didn't move. Just waited. The call ended faster than intended. Not because of pressure, but because of absence of reaction. No anger, no confrontation. Just a presence that didn't leave. The American looked around, expecting irritation. There was none. Just stillness. He sat back, suddenly aware of how loud presence can feel in a space designed for absence. Silence wasn't a preference here. It was enforced expectation. In Zurich, I saw an American validate his ticket after sitting down. "I forgot," he told the inspector, tapping it quickly. The inspector looked once. Too late. The American blinked. "But I fixed it." The inspector nodded. After using the service. He started writing. The American laughed nervously. "Come on, that's fair." The inspector didn't respond. Fairness had already been defined. He tried explaining sequence versus intention. That he paid, that he corrected, that no harm was done. The inspector finished writing. "It's not about harm." That line ended everything. Because it removed morality from the equation. This wasn't about good or bad behavior. It was about order. He paid the fine quietly, realizing too late, correction after the fact doesn't erase the violation. That's the deeper fracture. Americans think in terms of intention. These systems operate on sequence. You don't get credit for meaning well, you get evaluated on what happened, in what order. That's why explanations feel useless. Because they are. Not ignored out of disrespect, but excluded by design. Systems like this don't interpret behavior. They record it, and respond accordingly. In Paris, I watched an American try to split a bill into 6 exact portions. Not approximate, exact. "Can you just divide it evenly?" he asked. The waiter looked at the receipt. "No." He blinked. "No." The waiter shook his head slightly. "You pay what you ordered." The American laughed. "That's complicated." The waiter replied, "It's accurate." He tried simplifying it, offering to calculate, suggesting fairness through convenience. The waiter didn't argue. "You can calculate," he said. "We won't." That was the boundary. Responsibility wasn't outsourced to the system. It stayed with the individual. The American pulled out his phone, doing math he hadn't expected to do. Because here, precision wasn't optional, it was assumed. In Berlin, I saw an American press a pedestrian crossing button repeatedly. Rapid taps. Urgency translated into motion. A local beside him pressed it once, gently. "It's already registered," she said. He frowned. "I want it to change faster." She looked at the light. "It won't." He kept pressing anyway. The signal didn't react. Because input wasn't the same as influence. The light changed exactly when it was programmed to. Not earlier. Not later. Independent of his effort. He stepped forward, slightly annoyed. "What's the point of the button?" The woman answered without looking at him. "To tell the system you are here. Not to control it." That sentence stayed with me longer than the crossing itself. Because it defined the entire interaction model. At some point, the realization becomes unavoidable: these systems are not interactive in the way Americans expect. They don't respond to urgency, pressure, or repetition. They respond to input, once. After that, they proceed independently. That's where frustration turns into adaptation. Not acceptance, just efficiency. You stop pushing and start aligning.
Friends, this last one, I still don't fully understand.
By now, the pattern isn't surprising anymore. It's predictable. And that's exactly the point. Predictability replaces flexibility, and with it, something else disappears: negotiation. Not reduced. Removed. What remains is a quieter kind of interaction, one where outcomes don't depend on who you are, how you speak, or how confident you sound. Only on whether you followed the sequence. In Helsinki, I watched an American try to fill silence at a small cafe table. He talked continuously: stories, jokes, reassurance. The Finnish man across from him listened, nodded once, then returned to his coffee. No interruption. No reaction. Just stillness after the words ended. The American paused, waiting for feedback that never came. Because silence here wasn't awkward, it was complete. He tried again, softer this time. "Did that make sense?" The man nodded once. Nothing else. No expansion, no validation. Just acknowledgement without engagement. The American leaned back, visibly unsettled. Because without reaction, there was nothing to adjust to. No signal to read, no feedback to respond to. Just a conversation that didn't behave like one anymore. In Vienna, I saw an American ring a neighbor's doorbell to ask about a package. Friendly tone, open posture. The door opened halfway. "Yes," he said. The American explained the situation, smiling. The man listened, then said, "I don't know," and closed the door immediately. No follow-up, no curiosity. Just a boundary executed without hesitation or social cushioning. The American stood there for a second, hand still half raised. "That was rude," he muttered. But it wasn't. It was efficient. The interaction ended exactly where relevance ended. No politeness beyond necessity. No obligation to extend engagement. He walked away slower than he approached. Because for the first time, friendliness didn't open anything. It just stopped at the door. This is where it becomes uncomfortable. Not because of rules, but because of absence of social padding. Americans expect transitions, soft exits, emotional closure. These systems remove all of that. Interactions begin, serve a purpose, and end. Cleanly. Without narrative. It feels cold, but it eliminates ambiguity. You always know where you stand. Even if you don't like the answer. In Milan, I watched an American try to negotiate a store closing time. The doors were half shut. "Just 5 minutes," he said, slipping halfway inside. The employee looked at the clock. "We are closed." He smiled. "I'll be quick." The employee didn't move. "We are closed." Same tone. Same words. No variation. Like the sentence itself was policy, not conversation. He laughed, expecting flexibility to appear. It didn't. The employee stood there, holding the boundary without aggression. Eventually, the American stepped back out. The door closed fully. No apology. No frustration. Just completion. Because here, time wasn't negotiable. It was observed. And once it passed, the interaction ended, regardless of who was still trying to continue it. In Prague, I saw an American miss a form deadline by 1 day. It's just 24 hours, he explained, confident the gap was small enough to ignore. The clerk looked at the date. The deadline passed. He leaned forward. But it's basically on time. The clerk shook her head slightly. It's not. No escalation. Just a line that didn't move. He tried urgency, reasoning, even mild frustration. There has to be some flexibility. The answer came instantly. There isn't. That was it. The file closed. Not metaphorically, physically. He stood there, realizing something heavier than a missed deadline. That time here wasn't interpreted. It was measured. And once measured, it defined the outcome completely. By the end, something shifts, but not loudly. Americans don't lose confidence. They reposition it. It stops being outward, less persuasion, more observation. Less talking, more reading. The system doesn't break them. It refines them. Because once you understand that nothing bends, you stop pushing. And when you stop pushing, you finally start seeing how everything actually works. People leave thinking they were challenged. They weren't. They were recalibrated. The rules didn't change. The environment didn't adapt. They did. Quietly. Gradually. Permanently. And that's the part that stays. Not the frustration, not the stories, but the realization that outside your system, confidence isn't control. It's just the starting point of learning something that doesn't need you to believe in it.
My dear friends, did you like these stories? If so, like and write in the comments what topics you would like here the next stories on. Thank you. Bye bye.